Hello, friends, and welcome to The Practical Church Musician, a podcast of practical tools and ideas for volunteer and part-time church musicians everywhere. I'm Dr. Sam Fleming. Each week, we explore the real joys and challenges of serving as a church musician, whatever your denomination or background. From building your musical skills to managing the administrative side of a program, this show is here to support your growth and strengthen the work you do for your congregation. Thank you for being here today. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Practical Church Musician podcast. If you've been following along week to week, you'll notice that the last 2 weeks, I have not been able to get an episode out. And things have been a little crazy over here this summer, and it disrupted the schedule just a little bit. But I'm hoping that we're going to get back on track. At least we are today for this episode. Today I'm going to be discussing rehearsal pacing in a way that you can teach a new piece to your choir in 30 minutes, or possibly even less. If you haven't had a chance yet, go back and listen to episode 7, where I discussed a fail-proof method to getting to know your music before you ever have to step into rehearsal. Episode 7 is going to tie directly into the discussion today. If you've been with me since the start of the show, you will notice an underlying theme frequently coming up, and this will continue to come up in future episodes. This underlying theme is that of time management. How do we use our time wisely, especially when we regularly do not have a lot of time to dedicate to this craft? And today is no different. So I want you to imagine you are getting ready for your next choir rehearsal, and you are scratching your head about how you're going to review 2 pieces you started learning and introduce a new one in a way that the choir retains what you are teaching. And for the 2 pieces you've been working on for a little while, let's say that you allot 10 minutes to each piece, and then you give yourself a good 30 minutes in your rehearsal to introduce your new piece with the hope of making good progress with your choir. If you can even remotely relate to this, then stick around. By the end of the episode, my hope is that you will walk away with a repeatable framework that you can use time and time again without losing your singers to frustration or boredom, and where you feel like you are actually prepared and ready to go as well. The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right, no fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code. Just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is, itself, a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires 0 training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking a lot about rehearsal pacing. For the sake of clarity, if you're not familiar with this term, rehearsal pacing refers to the pace at which your rehearsal moves. You can make a 60-minute rehearsal feel like it is dragging on for an eternity, or you can make it feel like time flew by and that you accomplished a lot. I don't know of a singer who doesn't like the second option better than the first. So as we talk about rehearsal pacing, what are some of the common pitfalls that you can get trapped into in a rehearsal? Some of these pitfalls I have done myself, and I probably still fall into some of these sometimes, though I'm working on it. Second, I think that some of these are ones that I have just experienced as a choir member. If you sing in enough choirs, you learn to find these pitfalls really quickly. Or 3, I have observed these pitfalls as a teacher. So here are some of the common ones that you might fall into during your rehearsal, when you're leading a rehearsal. Number 1 is the talking trap. This is where you have 10 to 15 minutes of talking at the start and end of rehearsal, and you only leave a maximum of maybe 30 minutes to actually rehearse the music. So if you fall into this trap, don't wait for stragglers in your rehearsal. Don't spend a lot of time talking. If your rehearsal starts right at 7 o'clock p.m., then you start right 7 o'clock on the dot singing. And as you start on time, people will start to come on time more too. I've discussed this in previous episodes, but please, sing more than you talk. Give an instruction and get back to singing. Have everyone singing within the first 30 seconds to minute of a rehearsal. The second pitfall. This is the, quote, let's read through the entire piece twice. First, to get to know it, and second, to try it. There's an appropriate time to run the entirety of a piece, but running it at the beginning is not always the most effective. Now, on occasion, if it's a new piece of music and nobody's even going to even recognize the tune at all or something like that, there is some methodology to running the piece once at the beginning and just getting a read through. But just be really cognizant of how effective that is going to be for the music that you're using. Pitfall number 3. Sometimes it is easy to get trapped into rehearsing the first 8 measures or so incessantly for a full 30 minutes. I've seen this done more than once. And then all of a sudden, your rehearsal time is done, and you have not taught enough of the piece. Sometimes as directors, we think that we're going to be extremely detailed-oriented and be really picky about something. But if you're just introducing a piece and you need to accomplish more than 8 measures, try not to get caught into that trap of being too picky as you're first introducing that piece. Pitfall number 4. Similarly to this previous pitfall, running the easy passages because they sound good and not digging into difficult note learning sections is another major pitfall. You go through a piece and you say, hey, that section sounded really good. Let's run through that 4, 5, 6 times. And all of a sudden, your time is up and you can't get the hard stuff learned. Keep the easy stuff easy and work and focus on the hard things. Finally, pitfall number 5 is not knowing your own trouble spots with the music as the conductor. If you haven't spent enough time studying the music before rehearsal, you are likely going to be caught by surprise at the moment with difficult teaching spots of the music. So, this means that you, as the conductor, need to study the score ahead of time so that you can know what to expect and where to expect the tricky spots, even if you haven't perfected them yourselves, which is completely acceptable. And there are times also in rehearsal where you actually are figuring something out on the page with the choir. And that is also a good teaching methodology as well. And you don't want to be doing this with your whole score, but sometimes it's okay to spend a little bit of time figuring something out or making a decision in the moment so that the singers can see that you actually have thought about this or that you think about your process and everything. The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right, no fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code. Just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is itself a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires 0 training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. So now that we have talked about some of the common pitfalls that we can all fall into as a conductor during rehearsal, we are going to talk a lot about the principle of preparation again. So again, I'm going to reiterate again. You need to know the music before you walk into the rehearsal. You should be close to a point where you can lead the piece without having your nose in the music. If your score is marked well and you know the score, you can anticipate so much easier what the choir will need than if it is not. Once your scores are marked, you can focus on your rehearsal preparation. So this is different than learning the score, but this is actually deciding how you're going to use your time in rehearsal. For the new piece of music that you're going to be teaching, you'll want to aim for around 20 to 30 minutes for teaching a new piece for the first time. And you want to go through the score and look for a section that you can use to introduce the piece. If the melody is not familiar, have everyone read through the melody. If it is a familiar hymn tune, then just jump to an area that is not going to be as well known. So maybe something with a more interesting harmony, maybe the a cappella section in the piece. You don't have to start at the beginning of the piece and go to the end. As one professor that I studied with when I was in school liked to frequently say, he frequently said, "Start with the end in mind." And in this scenario, that means you could start rehearsing from the back of the piece and work your way forward. Maybe there's an a cappella verse, again, that will need a lot of help, so look at that. Whatever you decide to do, write it down in your rehearsal plan and give it a time frame. For example, I'm going to start with measures 73 to the end of the piece. It's going to take 5 minutes. My time frame is 9:05 to 9:10 a.m. That way you can plan how much time you are going to spend in different sections. And then that allows you to try to stick as best as you can to the plan. Now, the plan is a plan. And just like in life, things don't always go according to plan. And that's okay. The idea is that you walk into rehearsal prepared and have a clear idea of what you need to accomplish. So now we are going to lay out a practical framework of what this might all look like for a 30-minute first rehearsal of a new piece. So I'm going to lay it out practically minute by minute, or minutes by minutes. So minutes 0 to 2, you are going to very briefly give a roadmap of the piece. You're going to ask singers to circle anything that might catch them off guard. You have to give this to them and not expect them to know what to circle. So this might look like something like saying, "All right, singers, here's the roadmap for the piece. On pages 2 through 4 is the first verse, and the sopranos and altos start out having the opening melody. At the refrain, the tenors and basses come in on harmony. In verse 2, the men take the melody of the piece, and then the women sing a counter melody. Verse 3 changes keys, or verse 3 goes a cappella, or whatever. Circle the key change. Circle where your entrance is. At measures 45 to 47, watch that each part comes in at a different spot. Figure out what beat you come in on and circle that." So those are things that you're going to give them a very brief roadmap in 2 minutes or less. Now, minutes 2 through 5, you should sing through the main melody, and you can do this for the verse and chorus if that is the structure of the piece. Make sure that everyone understands the melody clearly. Repeat once or twice if needed. Sometimes, at least with a lot of church anthems, you will frequently see the opening verse is in unison, at least the first part or something. Regardless of who actually sings it in the piece, you can have the whole choir sing the opening melody. And sometimes I have them sing that on words, or other times I have them sing that on da or do or some other neutral syllable. Now, minutes 5 through 20. This is where you're going to drill specific difficult sections. This means learning notes. If there's a part that is not particularly easy, break the SATB parts, or SSA or SAB, whatever your voicing is, break it up into smaller parts. So don't do all 4 parts, but break it up into soprano and alto, or tenor and bass. If you are playing parts for them, have them sing while it is being played on repeat 3 times. So, all right, sopranos and altos, we're going to sing this line on your parts. We're going to do it 3 times in a row without stopping. After that, move on. Sometimes I will speak the text in rhythms in tricky areas before adding pitches. Count sing. Sing on da, so no text, just syllables. Do one part on its own if it's particularly tricky. Then do one part on its own, then add a second part, a third part, and then a fourth part. So S, A, T, B. Repeat as needed more. This is drill time. Each singer should be confident by the end of these minutes on the parts that you're rehearsing. It may not be perfect, but they should be confident enough to at least sing the notes on the page and have those intervals down confidently. Now, minutes 20 through 27. This is where you're going to start bringing bigger pieces of the song together. So you're going to work transitions, such as key changes or modulations, and you're briefly going to review any easier sections that you may have not touched, if you think it will be helpful. Then, minutes 27 through 30, you're going to do a full run-through of the piece. And this will not generally be completely performance-ready, but for a first rehearsal, you should be able to get through the entire piece pretty successfully. The Practical Church Musician Podcast is brought to you today by the Practical Church Musician Podcast. That's right, no fancy sponsor, no mystery promo code. Just me, the host, Dr. Sam Fleming, talking to you about the show. Look, here's the thing. Making a podcast about practical church music is itself a fairly impractical use of time. So, if you've made it this far, you're clearly the kind of person who appreciates that irony, and the kind of person who'd probably enjoy subscribing. So here's the ask. Hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever your podcast app calls it. It's free. It takes 4 seconds, and unlike most church volunteers, it requires 0 training and no awkward conversation with your music director about why you missed last week. I'll keep making the episodes. You just have to tap one button. That's the whole sponsorship deal. And if you're feeling really generous, leave the show a review. Now, this has been an ad for the thing you're already listening to, so let's get back to the show. So that's really the framework. It's quite straightforward. Now, here's a few concluding thoughts as you work through this framework and look at teaching a piece to your choir. First, as you go through this process in rehearsal, make sure to take notes in the moment of things that you need to review and that need more work in the next rehearsal. Second, as you think about your rehearsal pacing, always think about how slowly or quickly you are moving. It is completely possible to keep a quick pace while covering all of your material. Likewise, it is completely possible to not cover hardly any material while keeping a slow pace. So always look to improve your pacing. You will figure out what works for you as you assess your rehearsals. As a side note, I recommend recording your rehearsals so that you can go back and listen to them for the sake of finding things you need to work on next time and things that you need to hear for your own teaching. Also, if you decide to do video recording, then that gives you a chance to also observe your conducting if you're wanting to work on improving that rehearsal to rehearsal too. Also, while you are learning the art of rehearsal pacing, use a stopwatch or a timer in rehearsal so that you can hone your skills in time management. Over time, you'll get more confident in knowing where the time goes during a rehearsal, and you'll have a good idea of how long it takes to do certain tasks in rehearsal. But always be looking at how you can use your time well. Concluding thought number 3. I said it before, and I will say it again. Teach the hardest parts of the music first. Teach it early on in the rehearsal where energy and attention spans are much higher. You will be so glad that you did. Final concluding thought number 4 is that it is easy to fall into the habit of always giving critiques to your choir. Your job as a conductor is to build your choir up, encourage them, give them hope, help them reach their full potential. This cannot happen if your critiques frequently turn to negativity. Yes, there are negative things that you need to address, but how you do it is more important than the actual critique you give. Constantly give praise. Use positive reinforcement. Encourage yourself and your singers to do the hard things. This is what will make the experience meaningful for everyone involved. And if you don't know where to start with this, just think of the compliment sandwich. Give a compliment of something the choir did well, give your critique, and then give another compliment or words of encouragement. So to close out this episode today, I invite you to put together a rehearsal plan with these guidelines in mind, even if you don't have a new piece you are working on right now. And remember to prep before you walk in, drill your 2 or 3 hardest spots in the middle, and always end on a clean run-through so your choir leaves feeling like they've got it. Now, of course, there's other ways and other techniques that you can use in rehearsals, but if you're just getting started out, this is a great method to use to help you have successful rehearsals. If you found today's episode helpful, like, follow, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow us and help spread the word by following us on Instagram at The Practical Church Musician or on the website at thepracticalchurchmusician.com. So as we wrap up episode 8, I invite you to join me next time as we explore another topic in the treasure trove of topics related to church music and service as a church musician. Until next time, keep singing, keep playing, keep practicing, and keep moving forward.